Lenten Thoughts, Day 34, Monday of Passion Week. I am with you only a little longer, and then I go to the one who sent me. You will look for me, and you will not find me. There is in the Gospel an apparent contradiction that has long troubled interpreters. Jesus says today to the Jews, "You will look for me, and you will not find me." And in another place he says, "Seek and you will find." Why such a different way of speaking? If Jesus tells me, "Seek and you shall find," why does he also say, "You will seek me, but in vain, because you will not find me"? Can this divine Savior speak differently in one evangelist than in another? To solve this difficulty, we must consider that Jesus Christ, in the Gospels of St. Luke, speaks to his apostles who loved him and sought him to adore him. There he says to them, "Seek and you will find," because their intention is holy. But in the Gospel of St. John, he speaks to the Pharisees who sought him to put him to death. And because their intention was evil and damnable, he tells them that they will seek him but will not find him. This warning applies to most Christians who seek God and yet do not find him. Where do you think God should be sought? Is it in households? You will not find him there because division has driven him out. Is it in gatherings? No, you will not find him there either. Gossip has cast him out. Is it in worldly affairs and professions? You will not find him there. Injustice and self-interest have expelled him. O God, where art thou? First point. God is the enemy of division. He is never found where there is no peace and union, since his infinite perfections come forth from unity. It is for this reason that God pacified the whole universe at the birth of his Son. When the Son came into the world, the whole earth, by a secret decree of providence, was brought under the obedience of a single ruler, the Emperor Augustus. All wars ceased. The world enjoyed a gentle peace. This universal peace was the fruit of the birth of him who is called the Prince of Peace. That is why the Apostle St. Paul calls Jesus Christ our peace, ipse est pax nostra. He is the source of our unity, and he cannot be anywhere without destroying all forms of division. He made peace by destroying hostility in himself. If the Lord has recommended unity and charity to all Christians, he commands it even more particularly within families, where the bonds of natural and Christian charity should be stronger and tighter. For true union to exist within families, there must be perfect correspondence between the head and the members. For this correspondence to exist, two things are absolutely necessary. One, those who lead, parents or masters, must know how to govern well. Two, those who are under authority must know to obey well. This is what maintains harmony in the great material universe. The first and higher causes continually guide the lower ones, and the lower ones ceaselessly follow the motion of the higher. From this arises the order and harmony with Maya in the universe. It is certain that families would be a kind of paradise on earth if fathers and mothers took care to govern their children well, and if masters ruled their servants well. The failure in this duty, this great duty, is the cause of the corruption of morals, and from there come divisions and misfortunes in households. If you want your servants and children to be united with you, make sure they are united with God. If they obey God, they will obey you. If you allow them to rebel against the sovereign master, they will rebel against you. In the end, if your household is not at peace with God, it will live in continual warfare. Those who know the inner workings of households are well aware of what I say. Fathers and mothers teach their children everything except the knowledge of Jesus Christ and of salvation. Masters leave their servants in disorder and misconduct. What results from this? Children live in licentiousness and disobedience. Servants lose respect for their masters, having already lost it for God. The entire household falls into division, and the God of peace is not present. And if he is present, it is only to punish severely those who have driven him out by their divisions. We have a sad example of this in the person of the high priest Eli, who was punished with a most dreadful death. He did not die while seated in his chair, but by falling from it, to show that this father, who had failed to instruct his children, was unworthy of sitting on the pontifical chair. He died not by falling forward on his face, but backwards, so that this same father, who had closed his eyes to the wickedness of his children, would not know where he was going in death. He crushed his head in the fall because he had not worthily fulfilled the duties of the head of his household. This pontiff, says St. Eucherius, otherwise a good man in his personal life and irreproachable in conduct, was condemned for the iniquity of his sons, because he had not rebuked or punished them with sufficient severity. Indeed, he did correct them. He made some remonstrances, but with the gentleness of an overly indulgent father, not with the authority and vigor of a sovereign pontiff. This terrifying example, adds the saint, is a warning to all fathers and masters that no matter how holy they may be themselves, they will be punished for the sins of their children and subordinates, whose guilt will be justly imputed to them if they fail to chastise them with severity. The priest Eli was condemned for the iniquity of his sons because he punished them with insufficient severity. Indeed, he corrected them, but with the gentleness of a father, not with the severity and authority of a pontiff. Let rulers learn how they may be punished for the crimes of their children, and that however holy they may be, the guilt of their subordinates will be imputed to them if they do not restrain them. Second point. God is essentially charity, says the Apostle St. John, and consequently he can only be found where charity is found, and he cannot be where charity is not. From this, it is easy to conclude that God is not found in most worldly gatherings from which Christian charity has been entirely banished by slander and gossip. I have fought against this vice in several of my sermons. Here I am content to offer you a few remedies capable of destroying it and of restoring charity in human company. The first remedy is to make a serious reflection on ourselves whenever we find ourselves tempted to speak ill of others, because it is certain that once we have seriously examined our own lives, we will no longer feel inclined to speak evil of our neighbor. When you detract from others, examine yourself. When you bite another, confront your own sins. As St. Augustine says, there are too many things to correct in ourselves for us to be wasting time digging into the lives of others. Whoever considers himself has nothing to reproach in others. Indeed, is it not an unbearable folly to forget oneself only to occupy oneself with others, when there is so much to be done within ourselves? The second remedy is never to listen to a gossip. It is Solomon in his Proverbs who gives us this remedy. Let slanderous lips be far from you. He wants us to close our ears so as not to listen to malicious words spoken against the honor of our neighbor, and to publicly show our aversion to slander, because the one that consents to it becomes as guilty as the one who spreads it. That is also what Solomon meant when he said, "As the north wind drives away rain, so a sad face silences a slanderous tongue." If people were faithful in strictly observing this rule, slander would be stopped at its source. For what fuels this dangerous passion is the natural tendency to slander along with those who do it. If slanderers met with some resistance in their listeners, they would see the contempt they wanted to bring upon others fall back on themselves. They would rightly fear harming their own reputation more by being known as slanderers than they hoped to harm their brothers by tarnishing their names. This was the wise advice of Saint Jerome. Beware, he said, of listening to slander. Guard your ears just as much as your tongue. Slanderers particularly desire to please, and they will not readily say to you what they see you only listen to with pain and displeasure. Saint Isidore adds something even stronger. He says that the one who listens to slander is guilty of the same crime as the one who speaks it, and he is bound to make the same satisfaction as the slanderer himself. Do not lend your ear to whisperers, for both the slanderer and the listener are held equally guilty. Who in the world reflects on this truth? People believe they are doing much for their neighbor by not slandering openly, yet they have no scruple in listening to slander. As long as they do not speak, they believe their conscience is safe, and yet the Holy Fathers warn us that to slander and to listen to slander are the same sin. So if we want to seek and find God in our gatherings, let us seek conversations where even the name of detraction is unknown, and where charity sustains every word. God has promised to be present in the midst of those assembled in his name. But to be gathered in his name, we must be united by the bonds of charity and love. Only the devil can be found among those who gather to slander their brothers, for it is truly said of such people that they are gathered in the devil's name. Third point. I know well that God can be found in all occupations that have been established by divine providence, and that there is none in which he does not give us the grace necessary for our salvation. I speak here only of those occupations that providence has truly established. For it is certain that there is an infinity of occupations in the world that are visibly contrary to God's designs, and in which we dare not seek him. I am not speaking of these professions which licentiousness and vanity have invented. I speak only of the ordinary occupations of the world, and I say that it is almost impossible to find God in them, because we do not seek him there, because we seek him wrongly. I appeal here to the testimony of your consciences, O you who are called men of business in the world. Is it not true that you seek no other God than interest? That interest is the principle, the rule, and the goal of all your actions. What litigant can say that he seeks God in his lawsuits? What lawyer, what attorney, what judge dares to flatter himself that he aims at the glory of God in the matters entrusted to him? What merchant ever thinks of finding God in his commerce and trade? Let us speak the truth of our shame. Interest, fortune, ambition. These are the gods we seek in our work and our professions. These are the deities that have taken the place of the pagan gods, and which make us far more idolatrous than they ever were. And if some do seek God in temporal affairs, it is only too common for them to seek him poorly, because they do not seek him alone. They seek him along with their passion, their greed, and the satisfaction of their senses. Not to seek God alone is to seek him poorly, or rather, it is not to seek him at all. Must it be, O my God, that you are everywhere, and yet we do not find you? Must it be that you yourself seek us in all places, and we cannot manage to meet you? Grant us by your divine grace that we may find you once and for all, and never let you go again. Amen. Help us at gofundme.com/restore-immaculate. Thank you for your Lenten generosity. May God bless you.